The moment my daughter-in-law walked into my old living room with her father, two lawyers, and a brown contract folder, I knew she had not come to make peace. She smiled like she had already won. Then she dropped the contract on my table and said, "Frank, sign this house over today, or we will make sure your own son never speaks to you again." I looked at my son, standing behind her like a quiet shadow, and my heart cracked in a place I thought had healed long ago. But when I opened that folder and saw the company name printed at the top, I almost laughed, because they did not know that the retired man they had mocked for months was the same man who owned the land, the house, and the company they were trying to steal from. So I looked at her calmly and asked, "Emily, are you sure you want me to sign this before I tell you who I really am?" Nobody moved. The room became so quiet I could hear the old wall clock ticking behind me. Tick, tick, tick. Emily stared at me with the same proud eyes she had used the first day she entered my home. Her father, Mr. Robert Hayes, adjusted his expensive blue tie and gave me a cold smile. He was the kind of man who believed money made him taller than everyone else. My son, Michael, did not look at me. That hurt more than the contract. It is one thing for strangers to insult you. It is another thing for your own child to stand in your house and allow it. Emily tapped one red fingernail on the folder. "Frank," she said, "do not make this harder than it needs to be. You are old. You are alone. You cannot maintain this place anymore. Michael and I are trying to build a future. My father has investors ready. This property will become something useful." Useful. That word burned. This was not just a house. This was the home where I raised Michael after his mother died. This was the home where I cooked breakfast before sunrise, packed his school lunch, washed his little baseball uniform, and sat beside his bed when fever made him cry. This was the porch where his mother, Grace, used to drink lemonade and tell me that one day our son would become a good man. I looked at Michael again. He still would not meet my eyes. 5 months earlier, none of this had looked possible. 5 months earlier, I was just a retired man wearing faded sweaters, fixing my garden fence, and minding my business. I had worked for more than 40 years in real estate development, but most people did not know that. I never liked showing off. After Grace passed away, I sold most of my public businesses, stepped back from the spotlight, and kept only a private holding company under a different name. I had enough money to live well for the rest of my life, but I chose a quiet life. I drove an old pickup truck because it reminded me of my younger days. I cut my own grass because I liked the smell of fresh earth. I bought groceries with coupons because Grace had taught me never to waste what others prayed for. So when Michael brought Emily home after their wedding, she saw the old truck, the simple clothes, the small kitchen, and the cracked paint on my garden shed. She did not see a man with history. She saw a burden. At first I tried to love her. I truly did. I welcomed her with warm food and a clean guest room. I called her sweetheart because I wanted her to feel like family. I gave them privacy, gave them space, and never asked for too much. But Emily did not want a father-in-law. She wanted an obstacle removed. The first insult came during Sunday dinner. She looked around my kitchen and said, "Frank, have you ever thought of moving to a senior home? This place is too big for one retired man." Michael laughed softly, like it was only a joke. I smiled and said, "I am comfortable here." Emily tilted her head. Comfortable is not the same as smart. That was the first time I felt something was wrong. After that, the little cuts came every week. She told Michael I was too old-fashioned. She said my house smelled like the past. She called my truck embarrassing. Once, when she thought I was outside, I heard her say, "Your father has nothing, Michael. Nothing but this old property. If we do not plan now, someone else will take it when he is gone." Michael told her to lower her voice, but he did not defend me. That night, I sat alone on the porch and looked at Grace's favorite rose bush. I wanted to confront them. But I stayed quiet, not because I was weak, because I wanted to understand what was really happening. My old friend Walter used to say, "Frank, when people think you are poor, they tell the truth faster." He was right. Soon, Emily began asking strange questions. Where do you keep the house documents? Do you have a will? Did Michael's mother leave anything behind? Is the land in your name alone? Each question came with a smile, but the smile never reached her eyes. Then her father started visiting. Mr. Hayes arrived in shiny cars and expensive shoes, always pretending to be polite. He called me sir, but he said it like an insult. He spoke slowly to me, as if age had made me foolish. One afternoon, he stood in my backyard and stared at the open land behind my house. It stretched farther than most people knew. Trees covered part of it, and an old fence marked the edge. He said, "This land has potential." I said, "It has memories." He chuckled. "Memories do not pay." I looked at him and said nothing. But inside, I began to connect the pieces. Emily was not just rude. She was planning something. Her father was not just visiting. He was measuring. And Michael, my only son, was being pulled into a plan he either did not understand or did not want to stop. 1 week later, I visited my lawyer, Mrs. Carter. She was 70 years old, sharp as a kitchen knife, and had handled my affairs for decades. When I told her what had been happening, she removed her glasses and leaned back. "Frank," she said, "do they know about Whitmore Holdings?" I shook my head. "No." "Do they know this house and the back land are part of the old county development zone?" "No." "Do they know the city is reviewing the area for a medical center project?" "No." She smiled sadly. "Then they think they are stealing a small house from an old man. They do not know they are trying to steal the key to a $100 million deal." I did not smile back, because this was not about money to me. It was about my son. I asked Mrs. Carter to investigate quietly. She found out that Mr. Hayes had a company called Hayes Urban Group. It was struggling. He had promised investors he could secure land for a new private medical complex. The best land for that project was mine. Without it, his deal would collapse. Then we found something worse. Emily had been sending copies of old family mail to her father. She had taken pictures of documents from my desk when she visited. She had also tried to convince Michael that I was becoming forgetful and could not manage my own property. That part nearly broke me. She was not only trying to take my house. She was trying to make me look mentally weak, so nobody would believe me if I objected. And Michael had believed some of it. He called me one evening and said, "Dad, Emily thinks we should help you organize your papers." I asked him, "Do you think I cannot handle my own papers?" He paused too long. "Dad, you are getting older." Those 5 words felt heavier than any insult Emily had ever said. I wanted to shout. I wanted to tell him everything. I wanted to tell him that the old man he pitied had paid off his college loans, saved his business twice without taking credit, and quietly helped him buy his first home. But I did not. I stayed quiet a little longer, because Mrs. Carter had warned me. "Frank, let them make their move. If they push a legal document in front of you, we can prove intent. We can prove pressure. We can protect everything." So I waited. And waiting was painful. Thanksgiving came and Emily made a show of kindness in front of guests. She placed a hand on my shoulder and said, "We worry about Frank. He is alone here. This house is too much for him." People nodded with sympathy. I smiled, but my chest felt hollow. Later that night, my grandson, little Noah, came to me in the hallway. He was only 7. He hugged my leg and whispered, "Grandpa, Mom said we might live here after you go away." I bent down and held his small shoulders. "Where am I going, buddy?" He looked confused. She said old people go away. That night, I cried for the first time in years. Not loud, not in a way anyone could hear. Just quiet tears in the room I used to share with Grace. I whispered, I do not know what happened to our boy. But even then I did not hate Michael. I believed fear had made him weak. Emily wanted wealth. Her father wanted power. But Michael wanted peace so badly that he kept choosing silence. And silence can be dangerous. Before I continue, if this story is already touching your heart, please like this video. Comment what you would do if you were Grandpa Frank and subscribe so you do not miss what happens next. Because what came next was the day everything changed. It was a cold Friday afternoon when Emily called. "Frank," she said sweetly, "Michael and I are coming over tomorrow with my father. We need to discuss something important." I asked what kind of important. "Family planning," she said. But her voice had too much sugar in it. The next day, I placed Grace's picture on the side table, made coffee, and waited. At exactly 10 in the morning, 3 cars pulled up in front of my house. Emily stepped out first in a cream coat, smiling like a queen arriving at court. Her father followed. Then came 2 lawyers with black briefcases. Michael came last. His face was pale. My heart sank, because I knew then that he knew more than he had admitted. They entered my living room without warmth. No hugs, no real greetings, just business. Emily sat across from me. Mr. Hayes stood by the fireplace like he owned it already. One lawyer opened his briefcase and took out the brown folder. Emily pushed it toward me. "This is a transfer agreement," she said. "You will sign the property into a family trust managed by Michael and me. It is for your own good." I looked at Michael. "Is this what you want?" He swallowed. "Dad, it might be best." "Best for who?" He said nothing. Mr. Hayes stepped forward. "Frank, let us be honest. You are sitting on land you cannot use. My team can develop it. Your son benefits, your grandson benefits, you get care. Everybody wins." I opened the folder slowly. The first page said Hayes Urban Group Partnership Transfer. But beneath that, in small print, I saw something that made my whole body go still. The receiving development partner was listed as WH Medical Properties. My company. My hidden company. The company Mr. Hayes had been begging for partnership without knowing I owned it. For one long second, I just stared. Then I looked up at Emily. Her smile faded a little. "Frank," she said, "just sign." I closed the folder. "No." Her father's face hardened. "Excuse me." I said no. Emily leaned forward. "You do not understand what will happen if you refuse." I looked at my son, then at her, then at the 2 lawyers. "Oh, I understand more than you think." Then I stood up, walked to the small wooden cabinet beside the window, and opened the drawer. Everyone watched me. I took out a sealed blue envelope and placed it on the table. Emily frowned. "What is that?" I looked at her father. "Something you should have checked before you came into my house with threats." Mr. Hayes stared at the envelope. Then I said the words that made his face lose color. "My name is Frank Whitmore, and WH Medical Properties belongs to me." Emily's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Michael finally looked at me. "Dad, what did you just say?" I pushed the envelope toward them. And before anyone could touch it, the doorbell rang. Mrs. Carter had arrived. But she was not alone. Standing behind her was a city investigator, holding a file thick enough to ruin every plan in that room. Mrs. Carter stepped into my living room like she had been waiting 20 years for that exact moment. She wore a dark gray suit, carried her leather bag in one hand, and looked straight at Emily, then at Mr. Hayes, then at my son. Behind her stood a city investigator named Daniel Brooks, a calm man with tired eyes and a thick file pressed against his chest. Emily stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. "What is this?" she asked. Mrs. Carter did not smile. "This is what happens when people try to pressure an elderly man into signing away his property." Mr. Hayes raised his hand like he was stopping traffic. "Now hold on. Nobody pressured anyone. We are here for a family discussion." "A family discussion?" I asked quietly. "With 2 lawyers, 3 cars, and a contract that takes my home." Michael looked down again, and that small movement cut through me. My son was ashamed, but shame was not enough. Shame does not fix betrayal. Shame does not bring truth back into a room. Daniel Brooks stepped forward. "Mr. Hayes, my office received a complaint about possible elder financial exploitation, property coercion, and false statements made during a private development proposal." Emily's face changed from pride to panic. "That is ridiculous," she said. "Frank is confused. He forgets things. He does not understand these documents." I looked at her, and for the first time in months I let my voice grow firm. "Emily, I understand every word in that folder. I understand the trust agreement. I understand the transfer clause. I understand that once I signed it, Michael and you would control the land. I also understand that your father would use that control to complete his deal with investors." Her mouth tightened. "You are twisting this." "No," Mrs. Carter said. "We have copies of emails, draft contracts, investor notes, and messages where you discussed making Mr. Whitmore look incapable." Michael's head snapped up. "What emails?" Emily turned toward him. "Michael, do not listen to them." But it was too late. Mrs. Carter opened her bag and placed copies on the table. She moved slowly, like each paper had weight. One email was from Mr. Hayes to Emily. It said they needed Frank to sign before the medical center board discovered the true landowner behind WH Medical Properties. Another message said, "Michael is emotional. Keep reminding him his father is too old to manage things." Another line hurt me more than all the others. "Once Frank signs, Michael will follow whatever you say." My son's face went pale. "Emily," he whispered, "you said this was to help Dad." She grabbed his arm. "It was to help us. Your father was never going to give you anything. He sat here pretending to be poor while hiding money from his own family." I took a deep breath. "I did not hide money to punish you, Michael. I kept my business private because I wanted peace. I wanted people around me to love me for who I was, not what I owned." Michael's eyes filled, but I was not ready to comfort him. Not yet. Mr. Hayes laughed once, but the sound was dry and nervous. "This is nonsense. I did nothing illegal. A man can make an offer on land." Daniel Brooks opened his file. "An offer is one thing, but telling investors you had family control of the property before the owner agreed is another. Trying to create doubt about the owner's mental condition without medical proof is another. Pressuring him with family separation is another." Emily pointed at me. "He is lying. Frank has hated me from the beginning." I almost laughed, but it came out sad. "I cooked your favorite chicken soup when you were sick. I gave you Grace's pearl earrings when you married my son. I watched Noah every Saturday so you and Michael could rest. I tried to love you." For 1 second, something human flashed across her face. Then it vanished. "You looked down on me too," she said. That surprised me. "I looked down on you." "Yes," she snapped. "You and your quiet house, your old pictures, your dead wife everywhere. You made me feel like I was always a guest in Michael's real family, like I could never belong." The room went still. For the first time, Emily was not only angry, she was wounded, but pain does not excuse cruelty. Feeling left out does not give a person the right to destroy someone else. I softened my voice. "Emily, if you felt outside the family, you should have said so. You should not have tried to take my home." Her eyes shined, but she looked away. Mr. Hayes stepped between us. Enough of this emotional nonsense. Frank, name your price. Michael stared at him. Name his price. You told me this was for Dad's care. Mr. Hayes did not answer. Michael turned to Emily. Did you know he was planning to sell the land to investors? Emily's lips trembled. It was not like that. Answer me. She swallowed. Yes. That single word broke something open. Michael took one step back from her. His face looked like a boy's face again, the same face he had when he broke my garage window at 12 and waited for punishment. But this time, he had broken something much bigger. Dad, he said, I did not know the whole thing. I wanted to believe him. I truly did. But I had learned that love without truth can blind a man. What did you know? I asked. He wiped his forehead. I knew Emily wanted the house moved into a trust. I knew her dad had a development idea. I knew they thought you were being stubborn. But I did not know they were telling investors they had control. I did not know about the emails. I did not know they were trying to make you look unable to manage yourself. Then why did you not ask me? I said. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Because I was tired, he said at last. Tired of being in the middle. Tired of Emily crying. Tired of feeling like I had failed as a husband. She kept saying I had to choose between my wife and my father. I chose silence because I thought silence would keep the peace. I felt my anger rise. Silence did not keep peace, Michael. Silence handed them the knife. His face crumpled. I know. Before you continue listening, please like this video if Grandpa Frank deserves justice. Comment the word justice if you think Michael must earn forgiveness, and subscribe so you do not miss the next chapter. Because the truth was about to get even deeper. Daniel Brooks asked everyone to sit. Even Mr. Hayes obeyed, though his jaw was tight. Then the investigator explained everything clearly. Mr. Hayes had borrowed money from private investors for a medical complex project. He needed my land because it sat in the perfect location near the highway and county hospital expansion zone. But he did not own the land, and he had no legal right to promise it. His business was already in trouble from bad deals. If he failed to secure the property, he would lose his investors and possibly face lawsuits. That was why he pushed Emily. Emily pushed Michael. And Michael, weak from fear and pressure, pushed me with silence. It was a chain of selfish choices. Mr. Hayes wanted to save his business. Emily wanted wealth, respect, and control. Michael wanted peace without doing the hard work of truth. And I wanted my family so badly that I stayed quiet longer than I should have. Daniel placed another paper on the table. There is also the issue of the forged wellness statement. My head turned. What wellness statement? Mrs. Carter's face tightened. Frank, we found a draft letter claiming a family doctor had concerns about your memory. I frowned. I have no such doctor. Emily's face went white. Michael looked at her with horror. Emily, tell me you did not. She began shaking her head. It was never used. It was only a draft. Only a draft, I said. My voice was lower now, heavier. You were preparing to make people think my mind was failing. She burst into tears. I was scared. My father said if we lost the deal, everything would collapse. He said Michael would resent me forever if I did not secure our future. He said you were selfish and that old people hold on to things just to control their children. Mr. Hayes slammed his hand on the table. Do not blame me for your weakness. That did it. Emily turned on him. My weakness? You came to me every week. You told me Michael was soft. You said Frank would die in that house and leave us nothing but legal trouble. You said if I loved my son, I would make sure Noah had a future. Noah's name made Michael stand. Do not bring my son into this. Mr. Hayes sneered. Your son is the only reason I thought you had sense. Michael moved toward him, but I raised my hand. No, Michael, not in this house. For a second he stopped. He listened. Maybe that was the first small sign that my son was coming back. Mrs. Carter gathered the documents. Frank, she said, you have enough here to stop this contract, block any claim, and report the attempted coercion. Mr. Brooks will handle the city side. The investors will be notified that Hayes Urban Group had no legal control of your property. Mr. Hayes stood, suddenly afraid. You cannot do that. You will destroy my company. I looked at him. No, Robert, your choices did that. His lips twisted. You think you won because you have papers. You are still an old man alone in a big house. That sentence landed hard, but it did not break me. I looked at Michael. Maybe I am alone, but I would rather be alone with the truth than surrounded by people who only love what they can take. Michael's tears finally fell. Dad, please. I wanted to hug him. My hands almost moved. But then I remembered Noah whispering that old people go away. I remembered Emily laughing at my truck. I remembered my son standing silent while a contract was pushed toward me. So I said the hardest words of my life. Michael, I love you, but you cannot stay here tonight. His face froze. Dad, you need to decide what kind of man you are before you come back into this house. Emily wiped her face and grabbed her purse. Fine, come on, Michael. But Michael did not move. She stared at him. Michael. He looked at her, then at me, then at the contract lying on the table. No, he said. Emily blinked. What? Michael's voice shook, but he spoke clearly. I am not leaving with you. Her face changed again, but this time it was not fear. It was rage. You choose him after everything. Michael looked at the floor. I should have chosen truth months ago. Emily stepped closer. If you stay, you lose me. Michael looked at her with tears in his eyes. Maybe I already did. For the first time all day, I saw my son stand up without hiding behind someone else. Emily turned to her father. Do something. Mr. Hayes reached for the brown folder on the table, but Daniel Brooks stopped him. That stays here. The two lawyers who had come with them looked at each other, then began packing their briefcases. They wanted no part of the mess anymore. Emily backed toward the door, breathing hard. This is not over, Frank. You think you embarrassed us, but you have no idea what my father can do. Mrs. Carter answered before I could. Threats in front of a city investigator are not wise. Emily opened the door, but before she stepped out, she looked at Michael. You will regret this. Then she and her father left. The cars pulled away one by one. The living room felt empty after they were gone, but not peaceful. Not yet. Michael sank into the chair across from me. He looked smaller than I had ever seen him. Dad, I am sorry. I sat down slowly. Sorry is a beginning, Michael. It is not a repair. He nodded, crying quietly. I know. I looked at Grace's picture. Her smile seemed gentle and far away. Mrs. Carter touched my shoulder. Frank, we should talk about your next step. I thought the next step would be simple. Report the documents, protect the property, let the law handle Mr. Hayes. But then Daniel Brooks's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face changed. Mr. Whitmore, he said, there is something else. My stomach tightened. What? He looked at Michael, then back at me. Hayes Urban Group filed an emergency claim at the county office yesterday. They are saying Michael already gave them family approval to begin the land transfer process. Michael stood up. What? I never signed anything. Daniel's voice became very serious. Then someone may have used your name. He placed the phone back in his pocket. And if that filing is processed before Monday morning, your land could be locked in a legal fight for years. For a moment, nobody in the room spoke. Michael stood beside the table with both hands on his head. His face looked empty, like the floor had disappeared under him. "Someone used my name," he whispered. Daniel Brooks nodded slowly. "That is what it looks like. The county office received an emergency filing from Hayes Urban Group. It claims that you gave written family approval for the property transfer process." Michael shook his head again and again. "No, I never signed that. Dad, I promise you I never signed that." I wanted to believe him. I looked into his eyes and saw fear, shame, and something I had not seen in months: truth. Mrs. Carter picked up her phone at once. "Then we move now," she said. "Not tomorrow, not Monday, now." The rain had started outside. It tapped against the windows like nervous fingers. I looked at Grace's picture on the side table. I wished she was there to tell me what to do, but deep down I knew. This was not the time to sit and feel hurt. This was the time to protect what she and I had built. I stood up. "Michael, get your coat." He looked surprised. "You want me to come?" I looked at him for a long second. "If your name is being used, then you need to stand beside the truth." He nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." Those two words nearly broke me. He had not called me sir since he was a boy. We drove straight to the county record's office. Mrs. Carter drove ahead. Daniel followed in his city car. Michael sat beside me in my old pickup truck, the same truck Emily had called embarrassing. For several minutes we said nothing. Then Michael spoke. "Dad, I need to tell you something." I kept my eyes on the road. "Then tell me." He swallowed. "Emily told me that if I did not support the trust, she would take Noah and leave. She said I was weak. She said I cared more about being your son than being her husband. I got scared. I thought if I agreed to the trust, everyone would calm down." I said quietly, "You were trying to avoid a fight." "Yes. But you let the fight come to my door." He closed his eyes. "I know. I wanted to stay angry. Part of me did. But another part remembered the little boy who once held my hand crossing the street. Michael had done wrong. He had failed me. But he was not the mastermind. He was a man who had allowed fear to lead him." At the county office, the night clerk looked nervous when Mrs. Carter introduced herself. Daniel showed his badge and requested the emergency filing. We waited under bright lights that made everything feel colder. Then the clerk came back with a copy. Mrs. Carter studied it first, then she handed it to Michael. His hands shook as he looked at the signature. "That is not mine." "Are you sure?" Daniel asked. Michael nodded. "Yes, it looks close, but it is not mine. I never signed my middle name like this." Mrs. Carter pointed at the page. "That matters. A forged approval tied to a property filing changes everything." Then Daniel asked the clerk for the submission record. The document had been uploaded by a legal assistant working for Hayes Urban Group. It had been sent the night before. The attached letter claimed Michael had full family authority to support the transfer. It was a lie. A clear lie. Mrs. Carter filed an immediate objection. Daniel placed the filing under review. By the time we left, the transfer process was frozen. The land was safe for now. But I knew this was bigger than my house. The next morning, Mr. Hayes tried to save himself. He called Michael first. Michael put the phone on speaker, while Mrs. Carter and Daniel listened. "Son," Mr. Hayes said, "this is all a misunderstanding. We can fix it quietly. Tell your father to calm down." Michael's voice shook, but he answered. "Did you forge my name?" There was silence. Then Mr. Hayes said, "You need to think about your family." Michael said, "I am." Then he ended the call. That was the moment I saw my son choose right. Not perfectly, not proudly, but honestly. By Monday, everything moved fast. The city opened a formal review of Hayes Urban Group. The investors were notified that Mr. Hayes had no legal control over my land. His emergency filing was blocked. His lawyers withdrew from the deal. Emily was questioned about the emails and the draft wellness letter. Mr. Hayes blamed her. Emily blamed him. That is what selfish people often do when the truth arrives. They stop acting like a team. Michael told the truth too. He admitted he had failed to protect me. He admitted he had allowed Emily and her father to pressure him. But he also proved he had not signed the false approval. The consequences came hard. Mr. Hayes lost the medical complex deal. His company faced legal action from the investors he had misled. The forged filing became part of an investigation. Emily and Michael separated soon after. Michael filed for shared custody of Noah, and this time he did not hide behind silence. He told the court he wanted his son raised around truth, not greed. Emily cried when she came to collect some of her things from Michael's house. She looked tired, not proud anymore. I was there because Michael had asked me to help with Noah that day. Emily stood near the door and looked at me. "Frank," she said softly, "I did not think it would go this far." I answered, "That is the problem, Emily. You thought about what you wanted. You did not think about who you would hurt." She lowered her head. I was angry that I never felt like part of the family. I said, "Then you should have asked for love, not control." She cried then, but I did not hate her. Hate would have chained me to the pain. I only felt sad. Sad for what greed had done. Sad for what fear had allowed. Sad for my grandson, who had heard adults talk about homes and money when he should have been thinking about school and cartoons. Months passed. The medical center project still happened, but not through Hayes Urban Group. I allowed WH Medical Properties to work with the city directly. Part of the land became a community medical center. Another part became a small public garden named after Grace. Grace Whitmore Garden. On opening day, Michael stood beside me with Noah between us. The boy held my hand and looked up at the sign. "Grandpa, was Grandma Grace nice?" I smiled. She was the kindest person I ever knew. Noah nodded like that made perfect sense. Then Michael turned to me. "Dad, I know sorry is not enough. I want to earn back your trust even if it takes years." I looked at him. The anger was not gone, but it no longer ruled me. "Then start with Noah," I said. "Teach him not to stay quiet when something is wrong." Michael nodded. "I will." I placed one hand on his shoulder. "And Michael, remember this. Peace built on silence is not peace. It is just trouble waiting for a louder day." He cried, and this time I hugged him. Not because everything was fixed. Because healing had started. People later called it my revenge. They said Grandpa Frank won because he had money, lawyers, and secrets. But that was not the real revenge. The real revenge was not losing my heart after they tried to take my home. The real revenge was watching the truth stand taller than greed. The real revenge was seeing my son finally become brave enough to speak. And the best revenge was this. Emily thought I was just a broke retired man with nothing. Her father thought my silence meant weakness. But when they came with that contract, they discovered I was not empty, I was patient. I had not been hiding because I was afraid. I had been waiting for the truth to show itself. So if you are listening to this, remember Grandpa Frank's lesson. Do not judge people by old clothes, quiet voices, or simple homes. Some people do not show their strength because they do not need to. And if you ever see someone being treated unfairly, do not stay silent just to keep peace. Speak up before the wrong people write the story for you. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, comment what lesson you learned from Grandpa Frank, and subscribe for more emotional family stories like this.